Thinking your way out of imposter syndrome. Welcome to the School of Self-Worth Live. I'm Sam Osborne, the Self-Worth Guy. This is episode 137. And today I'm reviewing a TED Talk video of Valerie Young, who actually has impostersyndrome.com. And she's probably one of the leading experts when it comes to talking about imposter syndrome. And I've just watched her video and I'm going to play just about 30 seconds of it, and then I'm going to talk about some of the notes that I've taken from it. So let's just have a quick look at, here's Valerie on my screen. Let's just play 30 seconds where she talks about what imposter syndrome is.
This tendency to discount or diminish obvious evidence of our abilities is called the imposter syndrome. The first time I heard the term, I was a 21-year-old doctoral student at the same university where my mom was working as a night janitor. I instantly identified, and so did the other students. As a matter of fact, we decided to start a little imposter support group. We started meeting and talking about being intellectual frauds and how we're fooling all of our professors. And everything went great for about 3 weeks. And that's about the time I started to have this nagging sense that even though everyone else was saying they were an imposter, it's like I knew I was the only real imposter.
So that's Valerie. She's got a great spirit. And I'm just going to show you some notes, but it's just having a little bit of lagging right now on my computer. StreamYard and YouTube, they're not friends at the moment. They're taking its time. But Valerie is just describing what imposter syndrome is. And she's saying it's when you feel like a fraud regarding your intelligence and your accomplishments. And let me get my notes up for you. Okay, so she's saying, even though the psychologists have said for the last since the 1970s, they've been saying the best way to overcome imposter syndrome is to talk about it. But Valerie makes the point. She says, well, she makes this connection to, does talking about how fat you feel make you feel thinner? All right. So she's kind of making the point, if you talk about imposter syndrome, it doesn't really make it go away. And I think I know what she's talking about. So what she makes this point, you have to think like a non-imposter, or so you have to think like someone who doesn't think that they aren't an imposter or feel like imposter syndrome. So that means you got to change your thoughts, right? So she says, what happens when people who have imposter syndrome experience a mistake or failure, they feel shameful about themselves. Whereas people who do not experience imposter syndrome, when they have a mistake or they experience failure, they just go, whatever, it was just a mistake, and they try to fix it, right? But the people who experience imposter syndrome, they have these thoughts of shame, which leads to a feeling of shame that they are not good enough. And so she says, we got to pay attention to the conversation inside our head. Okay, we got to change. You got to pay attention to the way an imposter thinking is. And she says you can reframe it. And I've talked a lot about reframing imposter syndrome in a lot of ways. Personally, I think the best way to think of imposter syndrome is that you have a great imagination, that you have the ability to believe something about yourself that is not true, even when there is evidence around you. So most people say, oh, I'm a fraud, I'm a fake, I don't know my stuff, I'm outside of my depth, even though there's evidence around me that says I'm actually an expert, I'm really good at my job. So I'm saying you've got a really good imagination. That's my reframe. And so I say, if you can imagine basically bullshit about yourself, why not imagine better bullshit about yourself? Excuse my Australian vernacular, but I think you get the point, right? If you can believe that you are an imposter and you have evidence around you against that, that means that you have a good imagination, and you might as well imagine yourself to be authentic, confident, and expert. I say you have a good imagination. That's my reframe. So you have to change your thinking. And she says, take this example of like when you go to speak on stage or you speak in front of a group and you start to feel nervous. And she says, the way to deal with that is to understand, first of all, that the body does not know the difference between fear and excitement. So what you got to do is tell yourself, tell your body that you are feeling excited, and your body kind of goes, all right, well, I guess we're feeling excited then. And you can reframe feelings of feeling unworthy, not confident, or being an imposter. And she says, feeling like an imposter is the last thing that's going to change when it comes to overcoming imposter syndrome. The first thing you got to change is your thinking. And it takes a while to become confident. You got to do it over time. So over time, if you use the reframing and self-talk, positive self-talk, you won't necessarily just click away imposter syndrome, but you'll be able to talk yourself down faster. That's what Valerie says, which is, I think that's my experience too, is that over time I've been able to reduce imposter syndrome faster and faster through positive self-talk, reframing the way I think. And that's going to help me to feel confident. And she says, you don't have to feel confident first. You have to act confident. And over time, you'll start to believe that you are confident. And that's why I say imposter syndrome is a sign of a good imagination. And if you can act the role of someone, like if you can imagine yourself to be a confident person, eventually you start to believe it. That's how your imagination is so powerful and can change your identity. So rather than having this feeling that I'm going to be an imposter or feel like an imposter for my whole life, you're going to feel like an imposter for a moment, which is a really encouraging way to see this. All right, let me just check the comments. We got Jared saying, g'day, Jared, a good mate of mine from high school all the way in Perth, Western Australia. G'day to Jared. And I believe he's at Sardelic Real Estate in Como, South Perth. So shout out to you guys there. All right, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, I've got a free gift for you. It's called Crush Imposter Syndrome Forever, the starter kit for bulletproof confidence. And you can get it at samosborne.com/starter kit. And I invite you to join the School of Self-Worth Facebook group. The links are in the post under this. And it is Friday here in California. I'm about to go and open a beer after a long, hard week. Everybody, I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you later.